Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We caught up with Mike Hodgson earlier today, CEO at Serabi Gold, also joined by Clive Lyne, CFO. We talk about the development work that they're doing to play catch up on 2020, where COVID affected their ability to do so. We look at some of the exploration results we're starting to see from the drill bit, some quite exciting high grade numbers coming out of that too. And plus, there's a potential for a sort of halo of lower grade bulk mining opportunity too. We also look at the timing around Kringa when it starts contributing towards the bottom line. If you want our thoughts and opinions on the conversations, topics discussed, the company, you can find that at cruxinvestor.com/club, where you can also find detailed company reports and analysis. We've got commentary from experts from around the world on a variety of companies and commodities. We've got training courses on there. Plus, we do summaries of all the interviews to save you some time because we know you're busy people. And if you want to, you can come and join a thriving community of investors sharing their thoughts and ideas with each other in a nice, friendly and safe environment, free from all that judgment, trolling and abuse you see elsewhere. And if that sounds nice, join them, cruxinvestor.com/club. There's a bit of a waiting list at the moment, but well worth the wait when you get there. So hopefully see you soon. And we'd love your feedback too. So do give us a like, leave your thoughts below. And if you want to see precisely what we talked about today, do take a look in the description below. Gentlemen, how are we?
Very good.
Very well, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Very well.
Good. Are we both in country or anyone in Brazil?
No, we're both in the UK. I'm working hard and trying to get out there. It's not easy at the moment, as anybody and everybody would know. But working on it. Hopefully, going to get out before the end of Q2. That's the plan.
Fantastic. Well, look, thanks. We haven't spoken for a while, so I wanted to catch up because obviously last year was a tough old year for miners in Brazil in terms of hitting targets, in terms of being able to get keep people on site, those sorts of things. But you sort of finished the year quite well. I want to see how things are progressing now. So I want to get an update from you operationally, Mike, but we've got Clive Lyne on the line, the CFO of Serabi. You've got you here for a reason because there's a little release that you put out with regards to your audit. And I wanted to try and understand it a little bit better because it was kind of a bit short on detail. And I want to know what's going on. So why the press release? What are you trying to tell us?
Well, I think a little short on detail, Matthew. Really, because we have there will be or certainly be a legal process ongoing, and as a result of that, I think we just need to be conscious of what we say, and clearly we don't want to make any sort of accusations or otherwise that we can't support. So there's ongoing inquiries at the moment, but there was at the end of 2000 or during the course of the audit work that our auditors BDO were undertaking for the 2020 financial statements. Right towards the end of that work that they were doing, it was identified some unauthorized cash withdrawals. Investigations were made into those. There weren't adequate explanations or supporting documentation that could be presented for those. There were obvious concerns as to what those funds had been used for, and that led to an issue that was announced at the beginning of April, that we weren't going to be in a position to release the financial statements on the schedule that we'd originally expected. And then we suspended 2 members of staff, and just to comply with sort of Brazilian employment law, I suppose there was a priority in here to get in and understand really what was going on and come to a conclusion fairly quickly as to what we were going to do with those, because employment law in Brazil is slightly more protective towards the employee than it may otherwise be in other jurisdictions. So we had a 30-day period in which to either terminate or have to reinstate the individuals, essentially. So that was where the priority was. We identified that there had been further unauthorized cash withdrawals made from the company, and that was the purpose of the release that we made a few days ago. And consequence of that is that a couple of our senior members of staff have now left the company, and we're in the process of going through and completing that legal process.
Okay, so I appreciate you were taking this really seriously because most companies wouldn't even talk about this. Okay, so thanks for that. But I just need to press you a little bit more. So the numbers we're talking about here that I saw in the release, we're talking about 80,000 from last year and going back to 2015, I think as much as $200,000. Now, as a percentage of your annual spend, I get that it's an insignificant amount. What is it, 0.001%? But on an annualized basis, but it's what it signifies. So do you feel that you have rooted out and got rid of that unauthorized expenditure, or can we expect to see more?
Look, I think what we're into now is sort of having identified some further unauthorized expenses. We've gone through, we've wanted to check exactly where that expenditure has appeared in our accounts in each of those years that it's been incurred. We're satisfied that that has all gone through our profit and loss. And we're satisfied as well that there isn't a sort of missing funds in terms of black holes in the accounting or the bank accounts all reconcile, etc. So we're not looking at one of these situations of sudden significant restatements or otherwise of past years. We think we've got to the bottom of that side of things, but we now the auditors will want, as a result of having uncovered something, to go through and revisit each of those years just to make sure that there isn't anything else that was untoward or unauthorized or needs to be looked at.
So BDO, are they new? Are they a new auditor?
BDO and has been our auditor now for a number of years, over 10 years.
Okay. But this is the first time they brought it to your attention. Is that because it's some kind of, they consider it a rounding error, or why now?
No, look, I think there's always what's the right phrase that I want to use? There's always anxiety or special interest, I suppose, when cash payments have been identified. In this particular instance, they did get picked up in their routine audit process, and that's picked it up. It may, when we're looking at these, and as you said, the cash sums have been fairly small, and may simply, I don't want to prejudge anything, but would simply say they probably haven't even got onto the materiality stakes, or just didn't get into the sample testing that was being looked at in that particular in previous years, and it may just have been a complete random event that it was picked up at this particular moment in time. Okay.
Like I say, so it's a super small amount. I appreciate you dealing with it in public and not obfuscating it in any way. We'll hear more. So what's the timing on getting the audit signed off then?
Well, we're still hopeful, as we said in our release this week, that we're still targeting for the 30th of June, which is the date that AIM requires accounts to be submitted. So that's still what we're working on. BDO are working alongside a forensic team in Brazil as well to bring things to a conclusion and complete the work programs.
Is the audit going to cost you more than the amount of money that's missing?
Let's not look too deeply in that. I think the issue here is to make sure that, as you've said, that we've rooted out the what's going on. Clearly we're taking a complete review of all our internal control systems. We're looking at potentially outsourcing some of the transactional processing to create better controls that we can put into place and avoid a similar situation occurring. And although it's relatively small amounts, I think we have to send a message through that this isn't going to be tolerated, and that we will take strong action against it.
Good man. Thank you for talking about it. Sounds like you're really on top of it, Mike. So, have you any thoughts on that? Because I want to talk about aspiration.
Well, I just Yeah, I just want to add that this is all being done in a very tough time. We've got COVID and travel restrictions, and I don't think there's any coincidence that the bulk of this occurred in 2020, when that it was difficult to supervise perhaps as much as we want to have done. And I think the good thing about this is if there is a good thing about it is we brought in efforts last year to improve our corporate governance in Brazil. That's paid dividends, obviously, because very quickly we've rooted out a problem and two individuals, one individual in particular, and dealt with them. And it offers now, everything's now out in the open, and we can really change things for the better in terms of our corporate governance and reporting structures going forward. But as I say, it's not been easy doing this, not being able to get down there and having to do this all through our legal counsel in Brazil and Brazilian teams, and not being able to, there's no substitute for being there yourself and getting stuck in. So my sympathy goes to Clive trying to do all this with the auditors from London.
Okay, enough said. Let's talk about some of these press releases that you've been putting out. I was particularly interested in what's going on at São Domingos, because we talked about that previously, and I think the importance in terms of your growth story of exploration. So you're obviously pleased with what you're seeing there. Do you want to tell us or remind us a little bit about what you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, we've done two releases there. The first release was essentially the first holes, the discovery holes, which we did at the end of January. I think we did another release probably about just over a month ago, that's 6 weeks ago, where we're really trying to understand, what we've actually got there in terms of its scale and sort of extent. Just to recall, we've got about a 600 meter at the moment, a trend that's about 600 meters long. It's got a series of high-grade vein structures which are being intermittently mined along that strike length by the garimpeiros, the artisanal miners at various points on various structures. So we're just trying to piece together what the heck this thing is. And what we've actually done is focus in a central area, which we call the Tucano, where that was the name of the Garimpo open pit that was there. And we knew from surface this was like a 20-meter wide structure, grading at about 12 grams if you bolt it all together, which is really exciting. We drilled a hole at depth, and that came back with similar numbers. I think at sort of 100 meters depth, it was still sort of 6 meters wide at 20 grams per ton. We then stepped out and found even more sections, more structures. So we've actually now got almost a controlled section in the center. And the exciting thing is we've identified about 4 high-grade structures inside like a 40-meter wide, lower grade mineralized halo. So we're now kind of targeting that envelope that contains all these high-grade structures. So we've actually got some superb intersections. And we've sort of said this within that 50-meter halo, we've got 3 7-meter zones, 7-meter zones, which are much wider zones than we're mining at Palito or São Chico, which are grading sort of 10 grams or more. And in one of those intersections, we obviously had visible gold, which I've never seen ever before at Sarabi, Palito, São Chico, São Domingos. Amazing to see it. Well, actually, I didn't see it. I saw a photograph of it, but it's my geologist saw it. That's great. So now we're just repeating that sort of big sort of section up to the north and the south. And the whole idea is this sort of 50-meter wide zone, which we're targeting in that top 100 meters. Has it got legs over the whole 600 meters? And if we do, and it is bulk mineable, or it's a resource that could be considered to be bulk mineable, or it's more of the same as what we do, we've got to mine them as individual high-grade structures. That's what we're trying to work out. But it's looking great, and we've got we should have another 4 holes releasable data in around 2 weeks' time. So that will be the third press release on São Domingos. So that's going really well. And then so that continues, and as I say, we'll be at São Domingos drilling with one rig now for the foreseeable future. So looking good, looking very good.
That's really, really interesting. In fact, I was just slightly aware that I should probably ask you about, the team on the ground and the camp, and is it operating at 100% of planned efficiency yet, or before we move on to what could be quite interesting, because open pit will be it'd be a slight change for you. So first of all, let's come back to the camp. Is everyone there? Have you got the full team, full contingency there?
Yeah, it's, we're getting all this terrible news, what's going on in Brazil and India now. And I've been always thinking, well, I can't get out there, desperately want to try to get out there. And some key expats can't get out there, but we've got 99% of the team are there, and business is absolutely normal. I mean, you get the impression that war is raging and COVID is raging in Brazil. There's been no interruption to our business whatsoever, absolutely none.
Since when? Since when?
All since October last year, September last year. This second wave in Brazil hasn't impacted Sarabi at all. We've, as I said to you before, we've got good, we've kind of got the formula now for making sure we keep them. I mean, look, we have the advantage. We're a camp. I've explained before to you that we don't have people coming and going every night, so they're not bringing it in and out. They come just ready to come back to work. They get tested. If they're negative, in they come. If they're positive, they go back home. So we keep the camp safe and secure like that, and it's allowed us to go back to normal. So everything, it's full steam ahead on the operation, exploration, absolutely everything.
But tell me what normal looks like. You were averaging 10,000 ounces a quarter previously, before COVID came along, and for a little bit during COVID. But where are you today?
We finished Q1 with a little over 8,000 ounces, which is actually above the budget because we have to take into account that last year we only did 32,000 ounces and we did a lot less development than we were planning on doing. We were trying to set up in 2020 to be for 2021 to be a 45,000 ounce year. In 2020, we actually had to hunker down and go onto a skeleton workforce. That meant a lot of the development wasn't done in the mine, which meant we could never actually have the 2021 that we actually originally planned. It means in 2021, we're now doing the work that we should have been done in 2020, which means 2022 is going to be what 2021 should have been. Does that make sense?
It does.
It's so really this year we're ramping up, but we're having to do an awful lot of development, which you don't see in those production stats. But the mines don't build themselves. You've actually got to do the development, the hard yards, to reap the rewards down the track. So this year we're doing a lot of development. We're over-developing. We're doing what we call catch-up COVID development in 2021. To give us a 40,000 ounce plus 43, 44, I think we're gunning for next year. That will be the intention. But we're sowing the seeds of that now with all this extra development. From a production perspective, we're aiming for our guidance is 33 to 35,000 ounces. We're ahead of that at the moment, which is nice. The first 4 months, we're nicely just ahead of that. And the development rates are going really well too. So we will each quarter get a little bit better in the budget. Q1 was always going to be our lowest quarter, obviously. Q2 is a little bit better. Q3 and Q4 are the best too. So I can't ask for more from the guys. They're doing a great job on the operation. They really are.
Okay, and having sorted out your balance sheet last year and the various how are things with Greenstone? Let me ask that.
The Greenstone are good, excellent. Yes, they're obviously pleased with the way the operation is going. Particularly pleased with the way where I know you're asking the question. I mean, Coringa, I think, is the thing that they're most interested about. We obviously got the financing away, which is great. We brought in some new names, which are new with great support, and so some good names in there. And we are busying away on advancing Coringa. We're getting the teams in place. We're going to have about 40 or 50 guys there, or people originally, mostly mine development guys, people, and support staff. Because the first part we're doing at Coringa is really it's going to be a sort of two main activities. We're going to start the underground development, get into the ore body. And see what the ore body looks like, because there's no development at Coringa. It's a greenfield site. We're going to turn a resource with drill holes into a mine. That's the point. And the mine development is the key long lead item we've got to crack on with. And then in parallel, we're obviously working on the final stages of the permitting to actually assemble the process plant, which is at Coringa already. We haven't got to buy a process plant. It's there. So we are working. We've got the team together, which are They're doing we're doing geotechnical investigation work for the authorities on where the plant buildings are going to be in the structures. So that's going on. We hope to be submitting our application for the installation license for the process plant in August, September, with a view to getting that permit in before the year end, which means we can start pouring concrete and the foundations for the process plant Q1 2022. That's the plan. By which time the mine development will be well away. We're building a stockpile. We'll be understanding the ore body better. We'll be answering a lot of the questions, and we'll be moving Coringa forward and de-risking it a lot, because we will probably plug the funding hole that we've got for putting Coringa into production with debt, and that's what we need to do.
So, and what's the timing for when Coringa actually starts contributing towards the bottom line?
It's going to be Q2. We're not really going to be pouring gold there until at the very earliest Q1 2023, Q1, Q2 2023. So it's going to take about 9 to 12 months to build the plant and then switch it on. Yes.
Right. And then that doubles your production. That's the hope. That's what we've talked about in the past.
Won't quite double the production out the gate, but it'll start contributing.
Yeah. Okay. So it ramps up to that. So let's talk about the development elsewhere, okay? Because that's really, really important, because I want to get a sense of the scale of the opportunity here going forward, because you've sorted out the cash position. You're generating cash too, and I get there's a kind of ramp up, obviously at Palito from COVID, and you've given us the timeline on Coringa, but the development, where are the development sites that you're mostly focused on going forward? When can we expect to see them making some sort of contribution?
Well, I think as we've discussed, the main push on the exploration is really we want to grow resources and realize the potential of Palito, but it's driven very much by us wanting to expand our gold ounces production coming out of the Palito complex. We have two sides to our story here. We have Coringa, which is a resource of 500,000 ounces with a plant that can actually handle a much bigger resource and a much bigger output than what the mine plan currently is. So Coringa is absolutely ripe for a big exploration campaign to generate a much bigger resource, to actually have a much bigger production rate. We'll come on to that, and we'll do that, because I think the potential to turn Coringa from a 500,000 ounce story to a 1 million ounce story, which means converting it from a 40,000 ounce a year mine to a 70,000 ounce a year mine, that option is very much on the table, right? That's that area. But we can build the mine as it is today to start with. That's the plan. At Palito, we've got a plant. It's a plant-constrained operation. The plant is at Palito, and the tons through that plant, the mills are the constraint. We've tweaked that by the ore sorting, which is helping, but it'll still not turn it into it's just a tweak. What we need to do is to find out where our next Palito is. Is our big production expansion going to be expanding Sao Chico? Is it going to be the Sao Chico, Sao Domingos combination? Is it going to be Calico, which is that very interesting exploration target that we have to the south of Palito, which is on the edge of that big geophysical anomaly, which I like a lot because I think it's got a fantastic geochemical and geophysical anomaly itself, and I think it could bring the possibility of open pit scale ounces, which would be a bit of a game changer for us. And that's very near Palito. So what we're doing, it's almost like we're exploring in the east part of our tenement, which kind of adds credence to expanding the Palito plant. And we're expanding in the west. We're exploring in the western half of our tenement of Palito, which is the Sao Chico, Sao Domingos story, and includes Cinderella and all those other things. If we get some big resource growth there, exploration success, resource growth that justifies some kind of plant down there, that's where the plant expansion would come. This exploration effort, as we keep talking about, we're drilling these 40,000 meters at Palito alone this year, 30,000 meters, sorry, and the same next year, to actually define enough resource to decide where we're going to expand our plant. And that will take Palito, or the Palito complex story, from the current 40,000 ounces, we think perhaps, 60, 70,000 ounces there. So blue sky, I look at this and I think, well, Coringa can be doubled from the 40 we're doing today, and Palito can probably double from the 40 it's doing today. So absolute blue sky, maybe we can be doing 150 between those two sites with exploration success and the accompanying resource growth.
Real game changer. Because I remember from conversations we've had in the past, you always knowing what you wanted to do, but you've been cash constrained. You've done a lot of the heavy lifting. Clive's done a lot of the heavy lifting last year with regards to sorting out the finances, getting some money in, completing deals, and continuing with the support of Greenstone, which is fantastic. But I guess the market's now looking to you guys. I mean, we're saying it's business as usual now. You're coping with COVID as it stands. So are you going to be able to do this catch up quicker than, I know I get the targets for 2022. I get it. 2022 is going to be what 2021 should have been. But have you got the cash have you got the ability to, push even harder, play catch up?
I don't think we can go any faster. I mean, Coringa growth is somewhat out of our hands. It's kind of license related. So we can push as hard as we can to get that done. And then basically when we do get that LI in our hands, you can only pour concrete at a certain rate, if you know what I mean. So at the end of the day, that's actually quite fixed. I mean, I'd be delighted if we can get that by January, start the plant in January and take 9-12 months to build the plant. That would be a great result, and remember that plant's going to be big and hungry. So we are setting ourselves up to actually have Coringa being a bigger operation than actually the current mine plan is, because the plant is double the size than the actual current mine plan needs. So we'll be well placed for then doing exploration at Coringa afterwards, and filling that plant with more ounces. So that's all plan. That's the development plan for Coringa can't really be accelerated in terms of the plant. In terms of the mine itself and getting to 40,000 ounces, we took a decision when we did the PEA, which is the study that's on the back of the Anfield BFS. We took the decision to actually go for a low initial capex option because we thought that was going to be the most palatable option for shareholders, and grow the mine, out of cash flow. Initial capex, then grow it out of cash flow. There's another way of skinning the cat. If the money was available, we could accelerate the development of Coringa faster, so it could actually be ramped up quicker. It would be more expensive initially, and that's something which can be looked at. We have got that flexibility. That's what I'm saying. So on. But the key at Coringa is the mine development. That's the thing that's going to take time. When we opened Palito, it took basically 18 months to get it up to full production. So Coringa will be no different. But if you spend more money, throw more money at it, and open up 2 or 3 ramps at the same time, maybe you can go faster, but that costs money. But the option is there. In terms of timelines at Palito, etc. Well, we literally I don't think we could drill more than 30,000 meters a year anyway. So how fast that story evolves is going to be success driven. Drilling in the right place, and I'm sure we're going to find 2 or 3 more Palitos. I don't know the order in which we're going to find them. I've really got a lot of hope on Sao Domingos being a real success for us, and us starting a mine there. And again, that would be a great that would join into the Sao Chico story, which again, we've then got to think about, are we going to put a process plant down there, or are we going to expand Palito and continue to truck, ROM to Palito? These are all the questions which I think I've said to you before will only be answered by the drill bit.
Yeah, for sure. But the other bit in there, I was just thinking while you were talking, was the timing of it all. If saying that, okay, the mine is the at Coringa is what you've got to try and focus on and get that right. But the build of the plant in terms of timing, you've got a lot of water down there, a lot of rain down there at certain times of the year. I mean, does that restrict your ability to when you can start, or does it affect your decision making?
No, not really. I don't think so. You might get the odd days, but no. Generally, we can go right the way through. Yes, I think we can generally. The rain actually affects the starting up of the mines more, because you've got to clear a big you've got to clear the soil and then get into the hard rock. And we found, I remember when we started Sao Chico a few years ago, it was terrible trying to clear all that sort of laterite 20 odd meters deep material to create like what's called in mining a box cut or a cave to then start your portal. That was pretty tough going, but I think that's the only thing. But we've kind of half done that already. So building the plant, no, I don't think the rains would be an impediment.
Okay. So just generally, message on exploration is aiming for 30,000 meters this year. Are you going to do it?
I think we're going to get pretty close because we're going to bring a fourth rig in, as I say, to boost the sort of bit of a shortfall we've had in the first quarter. But I think with the rainy season now behind us, we'll be drilling like crazy from June onwards. And I think we'll be 3,500 meters a month. So we should just about get there, maybe high 20s, but not far off.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, Mike, thanks for the update. I do appreciate it. And thanks, Clive, for coming on. I know you're busy. Stay in touch. Let us know how you get on with all of these things.
Lovely. Thanks,
Appreciate it. Thanks, Matt.